with 2-point perspective, we're also want to start out with a horizon line and an eye level. And basically, the difference between 1 and 2-point perspective is this. When we're looking in 1-point perspective, we're really seeing the face of an object, and the sides of it go off and find a single vanishing point. But with 2-point perspective, basically what happens is we have turned the box so it's not facing just directly. So we now see two sides of this box. And this is one side, and those edges are going to go off and find one vanishing point. And then on the second side, that edge is going to go off and find another vanishing point. And that's why we have 2-point perspective. And the first thing you're going to want to do is put in, not right at the edge, but maybe like an inch or so in, make the right vanishing point, and just another inch or so in on the left, give yourself the left vanishing point. Now, everything in this drawing, in this space, is going to be connected to those in some way. So whereas before we used a baseline to start, since we were looking directly at the object, since this object is turned from us, we're going to start by finding the vertical edge. And it can really be anywhere within this space. So what I'm going to do is just draw a vertical line that is going to give me the edge that I want to draw this cube in space. And it's going to be that right there. So that is the edge of the structure I'm drawing. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do after that is I'm going to take a light 2H pencil, and I'm going to start giving this line some dimension and shape. And what you want to do is connect both the top and the bottom of this line to the left and the right vanishing points. And what we're going to get out of that is two sides, two faces of this box that we're drawing. So already what we see here is the space being set up. You see a left side and a right side. Now what we need to do is decide what we want the end of, where we want this box to end. And I'm going to sort of visualize it, just eyeball it and say I want it to be here. In 1-point perspective, there's a trick that I showed you that you can use to get a pretty accurate description of where the actual edge should be. But with this type of 2-point perspective, we're just going to eyeball it. And I'm going to say about here. So these are going to be, they can vary a little. Some of these are going to end up looking a little more rectangular, and that's fine. For this type of drawing, we're really looking at the bigger picture, so we're not going to need necessarily a high level of mechanical detail. So the next thing we're going to do is connect the lines we've just drawn to the left and right vanishing points. And this is going to give us the rest of the structure that we can build on and fill in. And I'm using the 2H pencil for those. Now, what I want to do is go in with a darker pencil, and all of the forms, most of the forms for this cube are already there in those perspective lines. So what I'm doing is, to help me visualize it, I'm darkening the cube part. So here's the bottom of the right side. Here's the top of the right side. And there's the edge of it as I get it a little bit darker. Now, that is where you're going to run into problems, is when there's a lot of perspective lines floating around. but don't erase them. Leave them as part of the drawing because it adds to the interest of the drawing, and it also helps the viewer, myself, and anyone else looking at your drawing understand the structure that they're looking at. And it also like is aesthetically interesting as well for me. Like seeing those varying line weights is really, I find, interesting. um, so, and if it, I'm actually going to take a 6B pencil and get really dark on this leading edge here, the edge that's facing me. And that's going to help me really define this object in space. And this edge, I'm going to make the right side of it a little darker and then let it taper off. The same over here. So we're not using any shading. We're really just going to use line weight to define these in space. And I'm making the construction lines a little darker than you should. So make these a little lighter, just enough so that you can see them. And then just quickly, I'll do another one up here, but it's really the same idea, except down here, you're seeing the top of this box here. And up here, what you'll see, you'll actually see the bottom of the box, since this would be effectively kind of, so you would be looking up at this object. So the top and the bottom of that line, there's attached to the right vanishing point, and I'm using the 2H pencil, and the left vanishing point. Now I'm going to similarly eyeball where I want the edges of the box to end up, and then I will define them by adding a nice sharp dark line. And now I'm going to go back to the 2H pencil and finish it by finding the rest of the structure using those right and left vanishing points. So remember, the easy thing to remember about two-point perspective drawing is if it's not a vertical line, it's going to be attached to one of these vanishing points. It's an easy rule to remember if you're getting confused, is that there's a certain logic to it. And if the lines are not going straight up and down, then they're going to attach to one of those left or right vanishing points. To help define it, I'm going to get really dark on that leading edge there, the vertical edge. Help define the form. And the reason for using these cubic structures is, you'll see what we're going to do next is you can add these, sort of build these together, these cubes, and build them into larger forms. You can also carve out of them smaller forms. So they are a good way of building structure in a drawing. So again, you'd be looking up at the bottom of this object here, and here you'd look down at the top of it.